Welcome once again to Tales from the Hearth, your weekly storytelling podcast where we thrill and entertain you with fictional, paranormal, African stories. This is our second episode, and we have two great stories to share. You must like them. Share with everyone on social media. You can follow us there as well. Our handles are in the description. You can also send us an email, that is talesfromthehearth@gmail.com. More information is also in the description. Let's start the stories. A damsel in distress is what you are. A knight of the underworld is what you get. So listen to this very tale titled Lover's Yoke, and hopefully you will choke. Yesterday was our anniversary. The anniversary of our engagement and the memorial day for his death. Last year, on yesterday's date, despite the rainfall, he had driven me to a fancy restaurant, and mid-dinner had gotten on one knee to ask me to marry him. In our happiness, we'd had a little too much wine, and on our drive back home, our car skidded off the wet road and landed in a ditch. I recall how I crawled toward him in that smoky wreckage without care to how much I was bleeding. All I could think of was, Lord, don't let him die. Tears slipped from his eyes as he grasped for air. Blood was everywhere, on me, on him, but it was mostly his. I wailed as he reached for my face with a shaky hand. He had something, but it was faint, so I had to lean down in order to bring my ears to his bleeding mouth. I am with you, was his last statement to me. A year gone, and I still had the engagement ring, which I have worn ever since that fatal night. For a while, everyone understood, but months later, everyone began to question my mental health. I cut off well-meaning friends, shied away from family gatherings, and buried myself in work and in my house. After a while, my siblings and cousins began to fix me up for blind dates without my knowledge or consent. Of course, I never showed up. The reason for all this sat right before my dining table. He watched me eat our engagement anniversary cake in silence. Is it nice? I nodded without taking my eyes off the cake on my plate. I was the only one eating because, well, he can't. You seem so quiet today. Anything the matter? He asked. I shook my head and continued shoving the tasteless cake into my mouth. This wasn't how I wanted my life. Having dinner with a ghost. Celebrating an anniversary with a dead man whom I had loved. He had begun to visit me after his funeral. He would just show up at night in my bedroom and sit at the floor of my bed. At first, it had been nerve-wracking, but I soon got used to his presence, and for a while, it felt like the accident and funeral had been a bad dream which I had woken from. But in the last few months, I had become aware of what it was. The living, cohabiting with the dead. He surrounded and consumed me. Even I was smart enough to know this would never end well for me. Done with the cake, I had taken my plate to the sink. I knew he was behind me. The air around me stood still and cold. I dropped my plate into the sink, deliberately refusing to face him. My hands shivered, not from the cold, but from fear, as I gathered the courage to speak to him. You have to go, I squeaked. Why? What's wrong? I said nothing but stared unseen at the crumbs of cake on my plate. He repeated his question sternly. What is wrong? Everything, I muttered. But I promised, he stated. Agitated, I turned to scream at him. I know! I don't want again. I want my life back. I want to live. His face distorted into an ugly I have never seen on him before. You want to live? You want to live without me? My scalp began to itch like crazy, so I scratched and scratched like a dog before saying, quietly, You are dead. You are not real. As soon as I said that, the temperature dropped and goosebumps rose on my skin. If he was a blur before, he became clearer in that moment. The man before me wasn't the man I had loved and lost. He was something else, something sinister. He walked towards me as I scrambled to get away from him, from it. I am with you. I will always be with you. Suddenly, my catechism class came to me, and I rebuked him as I shivered from the cold. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. He stopped moving and let out a mocking shrill laughter. We are one, for I am yours as you are mine in soul and spirit. To cast me away is to say you are done with this world. Happily, I will give you my hand so that I can rest in peace with you by my side. His statement dawned on me as I felt a weight on my chest. I felt a hot band slipping around my neck in a bid to choke me. Desperately clawing at the hot band, I staggered and crawled out of my living room. Once outside, I gulped in air as I felt the band losing its grip on me. I ran towards the gate, flung it open, and ran out to the street. Fear blinded me to what was to come. Screeching wheels awakened me, but it's too late for me. As I landed on the bonnet of the car, I saw his silhouette standing at my gate. As I lay on the street, bleeding out while the driver made a run for it as people screamed at him to stop, I saw the man who was once the love of my life walk towards me and kneel at my side. He bent forward and whispered to me, I will always be with you. I truly wish I had died last night. A call is a call when you hear it from the phone, but a call is not a call when you hear it from the grave. Our second and final story is titled In Memoriam. I woke up one night to pee and found Mama sleepwalking in the dark. At first, I thought she was checking the exit doors to make sure they were locked, but something about her gait made me turn on the corridor light. Her eyes were open, but had a glazed look. It was quite unsettling. I called her 5 times, but she said nothing and kept walking up and down the corridor. Worried and scared, I rushed off to Papa's room and woke him up. It took some minutes, but Papa was able to rouse her from a sleepwalk and take her back to her room. This was the beginning of her sleepwalks. At first, it was funny, but it became irritating because someone had to stay awake and watch her before she hurt herself. It was during this watch time that we realized something. She murmured a lot in her sleepwalk. Initially, we thought it was mere murmurs until my brother called our attention to what she was always saying. Ifedura, Lotaba. Ifedura was her twin brother. He was the one who had snuck out of the house to join the children's soldiers during the Nigerian Civil War. My grandparents did their best to bring him home, but he always eluded them. The lure of war seduced him too much. He was expected back home when the war ended, but he never came home. From all reports, no one saw him fall. Everyone who knew him claimed he was alive to the end, but he never came home. We told our father about her murmurs, and it worried him so much. Papa, whose spirituality always teetered on the edge of atheism, started to consult every prophets, priests, or guru with the fourth eye. He needed answers, and Mama encouraged him too. Finally, they found an answer, and a family meeting was called. The family agreed to go to Akokwa in Imo State and pack some soil for Ifedura's funeral. Since that was the last place it had been claimed he was seen, it made sense to represent him with Akokwa soil. They believed he may have died on his way to the Uga airport. All conjectures, of course. My family had a funeral for Uncle Ifedura. They really went all out for him. My mom played the role of the grieving twin sister so well, and my grandmother shed tears anew for her lost son. Of course, my maternal community, Umuruka, was represented well at the funeral. What's the business? All they said was, so they have finally remembered their son and brother Ifedura. The funeral went well. Uncle Ifedura got a proper burial and everyone went home. However, the sleepwalking and mama didn't stop. What to do? Papa did his consultations again, and it was agreed that Uncle Ifedura's grave must be secured with heavy-duty chains. According to Papa's consultant, since Uncle Ifedura was a victim of a brutal war, it should be expected that his spirit will forever be restless. Apparently, a grave can't hold in his spirit, so it needs to be kept in by a stronger iron with a stronger force. He added that failure to do so could lead to my mother's death because her sleepwalk is a manifestation of the pull of her twin from beyond. Finally, Uncle Ifedura's grave was permanently plastered and a chain was installed around the grave after it was blessed. Mama stopped sleepwalking and we were warned not to ever mention the name of the dead again. So right now, I'm standing over his grave and wondering what might happen if I remove the chain. You see, Mama is dead now. We just buried her yesterday, so I doubt she'll sleepwalk wherever she is right now. Today would have been her 64th birthday, but I guess they'll be celebrating it together for the first time in 50 years. That has been our stories for this episode. Next week, there will be more to shriek about. The stories for this week's episode were written by Adachuku Omudiwe and narrated by yours sincerely, The Grizzly. You can follow me on Twitter at CrunchGrizzly. Sound was produced and mixed by Blue Magic OD of Magic City. Also check him out on Twitter at BlueMagic_OD. Tales from the Heart is a production of Creator Library and Publisher, a digital library and publishing platform that provides equitable access to research and knowledge resources. Check it out at www.thecreatorlibrary.com. You can check the description for all of these details. Thank you for listening. I will be with you next week.